When I was 27 years old, I gave my girlfriend a chance to do something usually reserved for men. With the word yes barely out of her mouth, I told her it was her turn. It was fairly likely I'd say yes, but in a spirit of equality, in a world where women are strong, invincible, and can do anything, was it too much to ask her to also pop the question? We were sitting on a bench in Lithia Park in Ashland, Oregon, a few feet from a pond that had swans floating in it. It was a late summer afternoon, and we were dressed to go to dinner before seeing a play that night. We met while doing community theater in Monterey, California, so the Oregon Shakespeare Festival seemed like an ideal place to propose. When the time came for me to get down on my knee, I decided not to. Instead, I wrote, "Will you marry me?" on a play program page, and then found a reason for her to turn to the right page in the park. Unfortunately, she looked at everything on the page except for my words in blue ink. My heart was pounding. After what felt like forever, she finally saw the proposal, but I couldn't hear what she said because she was starting to cry. "Did you say yes?" I asked nervously. "Yes," she said with a laugh. At the time, I was getting a graduate degree in international relations and occasionally going to protests for things I cared about. Elisa was 29 and teaching math and science at a magnet elementary school. Most people thought I was too serious because I was so passionate about the causes I believed in, but she brought out another side of me. Her hazel eyes and bright smile had a way of loosening me up, and I liked making her laugh. We could talk about anything. She was smart and cared passionately about what was happening in the world. She even went on a march with me, but it was the way she loved life that made me want to be with her forever. A year later, with a sapphire in my left ear, we said "I do" in a fairly traditional way, except that after we left the chapel, there was a hyphen in my last name. I didn't add her Swartz to my Larson to be on the cutting edge of male-female relations. I did it because it made sense. I came of age in the 1970s when Helen Reddy's "I Am Woman" was an anthem for the women raising my generation. We used to hear a lot of "I am strong, I am invincible, I am woman" from the back seat as my mom drove us to the orthodontist and judo lessons in her gold Grand Prix. I was also surrounded by a lot of women, a lot of girls, who said they could do whatever a boy could do. My sister, babysitters, girls I went to school with, even Charlie's Angels. So when it came time to figure out what to do with our last names, I thought, why should my fiancée drop her last name and take mine as if it's more worthy? And why would I adopt hers if I'm just as equal? We considered keeping our individual names, but Elisa wanted to avoid the confusion and awkwardness a teacher can experience when calling a student's home and getting someone with a different last name. So we joined our names together and created a 3-syllable, 12-letter surname, Swartz Larson. A week after we got hyphenated, I started a new job working for a federal agency in Washington, D.C., where I spent most of the first day explaining why my name had changed since my interview and job offer. "You did what? You took your wife's name?" "Well, we put our names together." "I've never heard of that. Did she do that also?" "Well, yeah, we're both the Swartz Larsons." And it continued like that every time I started a new job, moved to a new city, went to a new doctor, or made new friends. I used to wonder if people's reactions would have been the same or would have been different had we remained in California. But after living on both coasts and in Texas, I had to concede that hyphenated husbands were extremely rare everywhere. Birth announcements were full of babies with last names longer than their little bodies, sometimes from hyphenated moms, but I didn't see any men changing their business cards after their walk down the aisle. Surname equality, as defined by punctuation, apparently never caught on. The other thing that never caught on was my last name. Darrin Swartz Larson triggered pained expressions as people tried desperately to find something familiar in all the syllables. It sounded like gibberish or one of those really long German words. Even my parents looked like they had to steady themselves and practice once in their head before saying my full name. Despite the loss of name recognition, I was at one with my hyphen. My wife was my partner and my best friend, the person I wanted to do almost everything with. The hyphen was the ideal punctuation for a joined life. We eventually had a daughter, and when she started school, our hyphenated name plan seemed to work really well, at least on paper. It took her little mouth and fingers longer to say and write out her name than single surnamed kids, and she had to endure struggling faces trying to pronounce her last name, but everyone knew we were her parents. We all shared a long, strange name. We were the Schwartz-Larson family for a long time, but somewhere along the way, things began to change between my wife and me. One night when things were getting bad, I had a dream in which my wife and I were arguing about something. Only she wasn't arguing. She just didn't care. It was like I didn't matter anymore. I woke up feeling anxious, but I told myself it was just a bad dream. A few months later, though, it was my reality. I think I was in denial about the shape of our marriage because looking back, there were some clear warning signs. Like when we went on a dinner date to reconnect after a rough week, and she mentioned that maybe I'd be happier with a different woman. Or the time she told me she didn't want to go to my friend's 35th wedding anniversary because she didn't think couples were really happy when they were married that long. I kept trying to think of things I could do to fix our marriage, but eventually there was nothing left to grab onto. As the space between us grew, the hyphen lost its ability to hold us together. Elisa eventually moved out and left behind a house full of emptiness. It wasn't just the missing furniture. It was as if the life that had been held within each of the rooms when we were a family continued to linger beyond my touch. The trundle bed in April's room, where I used to read her bedtime stories and rub her feet. The kitchen table where we used to eat pancakes on slow Sunday mornings. The other side of the master closet that used to be full of her clothes and her smell. I held out hope that a new marriage counselor, could work miracles. But after a few sessions, he told us he didn't see the need to continue with him. It takes two to reconcile. I uncoupled my wife's name from mine on Facebook the day I realized that our separation was going to be permanent. After months of hoping all the unraveling could be reversed, becoming Darrin Larson again through a few online keystrokes felt defiant of sadness and rejection and uncertainty. I was no longer linked to someone who didn't want to be joined to me. A week before Christmas in 2011, we sat before a judge in a nearly empty Collin County courthouse, answered a couple of questions, and were decreed legally hyphen-free. My newly shortened name looked strange at first. It was like a lot of things during the divorce. Sometimes it felt right, and sometimes it was a painful reminder of the life I wouldn't have. There was just too much emptiness around it. Over time, I've gotten used to signing my name, answering the phone, and introducing myself as Darrin Larson. But I'm not the same Darrin Larson who asked his fiancée to propose to him or who thought hyphenation would last forever. There's more space around my name and more space around me. The summer before I proposed, I traveled to Europe with just a couple $100 in my wallet and a plane ticket home. I had no guaranteed summer job, no sure place to stay. I just had a few friends of friends and a feeling that it would all work out. It turned out to be one of the best summers of my life. I tutored English in Barcelona, taught at a summer camp in the Catalonia countryside, spent a week in Paris and West Berlin. I even got to see the Berlin Wall before it was toppled. My life has a similar feeling now. A sense of adventure and a feeling that it's all going to work out. Only now I don't feel like I have forever to do whatever I want. So I've been trying a lot of new things, like learning how to ride a horse at full gallop. I even got up the nerve to try surfing, something I'd wanted to do since I was a teenager. It's a new start with an old name. And with no hyphens attached, I feel strong, like I can do anything.